We let it sink up. We let it sink up. If I could just, please. Just gonna let it sink up. You know I need a pen to play with. To be fair, that'll do. Hello and welcome. Hello and welcome to Straight On Til Disney, a Disney deep dive and analysis podcast, where each week I, your host Jonathan, takes a deep dive into the history of each Disney film and the legacy that they left behind. I'd like to remind you that you can follow me on Instagram at Straight On Til Disney Pod, and you can email me your thoughts at straightontildisneypod@gmail.com. Yeah, that's right. Hello and welcome to this week's Straight On Til Disney Pod, where we're going to be doing something a little different. As I've mentioned a bit on the podcast before, we've got some new segments coming up on the podcast. And this week we're kicking off a brand new segment of the podcast called Behind the Mouse. So what is this segment going to be about? This segment is going to be about the people that you don't really hear being talked about when it comes to the creation of all the Disney films that are loved and beloved. And we're going to be doing that from when the creators obviously aren't involved in the films anymore. And I did say I was going to start this ages ago and I didn't get around to it, so I apologise for that. And that's why this week we're going to be starting with Ben Sharpsteen. So Ben Sharpsteen was one of the many creators of not creators, but one of the many people involved within the early days of Disney. And that includes a lot of the many Silly Symphony shorts. And he was a supervising director and producer across the films from Snow White to Alice in Wonderland in terms of animation. He did a lot of stuff for live action Disney stuff that were documentary sides and a lot of other stuff outside the Disney company. So Ben Sharpsteen was born Benjamin Luther Sharpsteen. He was born November 4th, 1895 in Tacoma, Washington, the United States. He died December 20th, 1980, age 85 in California. He was an animator, director, and producer and was active from 1920 to 1980. So that shows you already how much of an impact his career had within the Disney company. But he was, as I've just mentioned, an American film animator, director, and producer for Disney, where he'd stay there for 33 years from 1929 to 1962, when he formally retired, and what a legacy he left within a breadth of films and a breadth of life, which is a really fun thing to dive into. And as we have done from Snow White onwards, and most definitely we will be going back to those Silly Symphonies later on down the line in the podcast. I'm not sure when I'm going to do them, but that's something we're going to be diving into a little later on after the films. He won 2 Academy Awards for his work on the True Life Adventures documentary, Amy Girls and White Wilderness. Sharpsteen graduated university in 1916 as a graduate of the University Farm, which is now known as UC Davis. He worked as an intern for Hearst International and subsequently enjoyed features of various animation studios, those including Velska, I think that is, Velska, I'm not sure about that, and Paramount, before settling on Disney. So while at Disney, he began his tenure as an animator for the Silly Symphonies, and they would become a director for some of these shorts. And then, as I've discussed and we've chatted about on the podcast before, he would later also direct films such as Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Pinocchio, and Dumbo. Upon becoming a supervisor, he would oversee productions like Melody Time, The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad, and Alice in Wonderland before becoming involved in the Disney anthology series from 1954 and received much acclaim for his contributions to the True Life Adventures series, which is what he won the Academy Awards for. Although he retired in 1959, Sharpsteen would continue to contribute towards the company until the 1980s when he sadly passed. Outside of the Disney company, Sharpsteen created a museum documenting the history of California's first millionaire, Sam Brennan, and the history of the Upper Napa Valley, as well as Sharpsteen's life and work at the Sharpsteen Museum, located in California. He died in California in 1998. Sharpsteen was posthumously named a Disney legend that same year. And that is Ben Sharpsteen in a nutshell. That is who Ben Sharpsteen was. And we don't really hear a lot about Ben Sharpsteen, who was a really prominent animator, director, and producer within the Disney company. And I think as much as Walt Disney was the figure, these films could not have worked without these minefield of creatives that are behind it. And that's what I intend for this segment of the podcast to be, to dive into the people that you don't hear talked about. And obviously, we have mentioned a lot of their attributes within the films, and obviously others, etc. we will dive into. But I just find it really fun and interesting to look and dive into who these people were, what their lives are, because we don't really hear these people being chatted about and talked about. And I think we should be. And I think it's a testament to Ben Sharpsteen's creativity, animation design, and directing style that we got some beautiful sequences within Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, within Pinocchio, whether or not I agree it should have been a film or not. But I do think you can't contribute the fact that Ben Sharpsteen was a major factor in some of those earlier Disney films, and without his stamp, we probably would not have got some of the crazy and beautiful films that we've got. So that's where I'm going to wrap this week's podcast up. As always, you can follow me on Instagram at Straight On Til Disney Pod, and you can email me your thoughts at straightontilDisneyPod@gmail.com. Like and subscribe on this video, and follow along for more content across YouTube and Spotify. Links are always in the bio and description below. Thank you all for listening, and bye!